What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10, and then we build them together. Now today is going to be our final build guide for the Artificer, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm just telling you right now, and then next week we start on the Barbarian. But for now, we're going to see just how much damage we can crank out with our little steel puppy by our side and a big old sword in our hand. So if you're excited to see that, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Most of the viewers of this channel are actually not subscribed, and so it would really be much appreciated by me and, you know, everyone else around me if you would just go ahead and subscribe. You can always undo that later if you want to. And then of course click the bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming uploads. You'll be notified of them. It really helps me out as well. And finally, leave me a comment, help me beat the YouTube algorithm, and let me know what your favorite subclass has been of the Artificer now that we have looked at all of them. So this week we are covering the Battlesmith, and this week was a tough one for me to get. I went through a lot more builds than I have in the past. This one, I think I've gone through like 8 iterations before I ended up on this build that you're going to see today. And yeah, I ended up throwing out so many ideas, and so that's why this one's late, is because I got an idea that I thought was going to work. I overlooked something going into actually recording it. I was rereading my script, realized I had done something wrong, and could not figure out a way to fix it. So I had to completely rewrite the script, and so that's why it was a little delayed. So I am sorry about that. But we ended up on a fighter dip, which is nothing too uncommon. It was a cleric dip prior, which was a little bit more difficult to get to work. But this is a really cool build, and I like it. It's not the Battlesmith build, and it is not the Eldritch Knight build that you would normally expect. We're going a different direction with it, and I hope that you guys are excited for that. Before we get into it, let's go ahead and go over our rules really quick for this series. First of all, we use the modified standard array, which is 17, 15, 13, 12, 10, and 8. This just keeps everything even, and honestly, I love using it at my tables. It just keeps everybody's stats even, so if one person rolled better on stats, it doesn't make the other person feel like they're missing out, and it keeps all of the subclasses even for the sake of stats. The power difference comes in the subclasses themselves. Next, we are going to always be taking our first level in the specified class. This, of course, is not going to always be the optimal case, but it is what we're going to be doing for this series. Like I said, we will be doing an optimization series in the future where we will mix things up and maybe take 3 levels of something at the beginning and then take 17, if that's our dip. Something like that. That's more for an optimized build. But for this, we're going to be using it just so that we have the right starting equipment, starting saving throws, starting everything that we've already discussed on the channel, and so that just keeps it all consistent there. And finally, we have to take most of our levels in the specified class and subclass. So that just keeps us featuring what we are talking about for that day, and it makes sure that we never have 2 identical builds in the future. That way we are always mixing things up and we don't ever end up with the exact same build. So that I wanted to keep consistent. I really like that rule for this series. Again, this can go out the window for an optimization series, but just for this one, we're keeping things simple. 1 class to multi-class into, and at least 11 levels of what we are talking about. So let's go ahead and jump into it with our ability scores, and our 17 is of course going into intelligence, 15 of course into constitution. However, we're going to get a little weird with our 13 and put it in strength. Strength is normally a dump stat on this, but I wanted to do something a little different. And I think that this is the way to go on this, and making us a frontline fighter, and you'll see why here in just a little bit. Our 12 is going to go into wisdom for those saving throws, 10 in dexterity, and then 8 in charisma. You of course could switch around dexterity and wisdom, but I'm just going to go with that for this build specifically. And then for equipment, we're actually going to try to pick up a great sword if your DM will allow that. A great sword is going to fit our theme as we go forward. We are not proficient in it yet, at least until we take the Battlesmith subclass, but we will get it by level 3, which I think is early enough to go ahead and forego the proficiency bonus to hit at least for a couple of levels, and then by level 3 we will have it and everything will be fine. So for race, I went ahead and picked up variant human here because I want to go ahead and grab a feat at level 1. You of course could also go with the custom lineage from Tasha's if your DM allows that, but we're going to go with variant human. And this is going to allow us to get a +1 to both our intelligence and our strength. I know, weird that we're putting things in strength, but we need it. So yeah, it's going to go into strength. And then we are going to pick up Great Weapon Master as our feat, which is going to combo with our Greatsword. Now keep in mind that we only have a +2 to hit because we're putting +1 in intelligence, +1 in strength, taking us to 14 strength, which I know is very weird for this, but don't worry, we're getting to why we need it. But this gives us a +2 to hit currently, which is pretty bad, but we will switch over to intelligence once we reach level 3, so it's okay, it'll get better, don't worry. We have a +4 with intelligence, so everything will get better. But Great Weapon Master is going to be a great way to rack up damage as we gain levels. Right now it's not as useful, but once we get to level 3 and beyond, it will get better and better, so don't worry about it. So for level 1, we of course are going with the Artificer, and we get 2 cantrips out of that. To me, mending is really good, but actually not necessary. And the reason is because the dog can heal itself. So if you want the Steel Defender to heal itself, you don't actually need to bring mending. Totally up to you. As far as other cantrips go, Firebolt is always a reliable option. Another one you could take is Green Flame Blade. Now I want to go ahead and clarify something. Once we get extra attack at level 5, Green Flame Blade basically becomes useless. Because we get extra attack, you can't cast Green Flame Blade twice in one turn. It doesn't work that way. So unfortunately, it only works for the first few levels and does not have much staying power. So if you wanted something for the first few levels to help out, cool. If not, Green Flame Blade, Booming Blade may not be your ticket there. As we get to level 2, we get our infusions, which are great. And of course, we're going to take Enhanced Defense and Enhanced Weapon. Enhanced Weapon can go on your weapon or on your crossbow if you'd rather use that for now. I would go ahead and just keep using the Greatsword if you can use it, even though you're not proficient. I think it still is a viable option to bring here. And of course, Enhanced Defense, giving us a +1 to our AC. Studded Leather Armor is pretty pitiful, but it is what it is. We're just going to take it, and we can just go from there. So at level 3, we go ahead and pick up our subclass, and this is going to really help us out. First of all, we can switch our ability score that we're using for our attack rolls and damage over to intelligence. So this is going to turn a 2 into a 4 and a +2 to hit to a +7 now that we also get proficiency. So this is going to make a very big difference and make Great Weapon Master much more viable, assuming you're rolling really well. And this will only get better as we go. It also is a huge boost to damage. Always good. And we get our Steel Defender as well, so that's even more damage and more protection for us, which is what is most important here. Being able to impose disadvantage on something within 5 feet of it is wonderful because our AC isn't that great as of right now, even though we are going to kind of go a little crazy with it as we go. It's not great right now, and so we're going to have to improve it. But giving disadvantage, especially at level 3, it's not bad. It's not bad. So we can work with this until we get help here in just a couple of levels. So at level 4, we could go ahead and max out our intelligence to 20. But instead, we're just going to not do that. And we're actually going to take a feat. And it's a half feat called Heavily Armored. It gives us a +1 to strength, which takes us up to 15. And so you're probably asking, Dapper, why are you focusing on strength right now? There's no reason to focus on strength. You just switched your weapon over to intelligence. There's no reason. We are now at the magic number 15 in strength. And we now have proficiency to heavy armor with this feat. This is going to allow us to take full plate, which we normally would not be able to if we didn't have a 15 in strength. So that's why we kind of had to split our stats and take some in strength. That's why our constitution is pretty low at the moment, but we will improve that as we go. But I really like this. I really like having the heavy armor on this build because we're going to be a frontliner. We're going to be up in people's faces, and even with the disadvantage, we're going to start running into creatures that have a decent bonus to hit. And so we really want to crank this AC as high as we can possibly go while still maintaining our damage. And this is a wonderful way to do that. So at level 5, we do pick up extra attack, which is amazing. And level 6, we're going to leave Artificer for a little bit. We're going to go ahead and go to Fighter Town, which is awesome, and is going to give us some really key benefits. We don't get any proficiencies that we didn't already have, unfortunately. But we do pick up an important feature, which is a fighting style. And there are two that stood out to me. And the first one was defense, and the other one was great weapon fighting. So defense is just a free +1 to AC if you're wearing armor, which we very much are. This will take our AC up to 20 right now because we have a +1 from enhanced defense, and now a +1 from defense fighting style, which is great. The other option that I considered is the Great Weapon fighting style. So Great Weapon Fighting allows us to re-roll 1s and 2s that we get on the damage die, which is pretty cool. You know, we're going to be rolling 2d6 on our Greatsword, and so if we roll a 1 or 2 on either of those, we can just re-roll it, which is pretty cool. If we do roll a 1 or 2 again, then we just have to stick with it. It is what it is, but you know, this is really cool, and it definitely is viable because we've all rolled 1s and 2s on damage die before, and it's really sucky. At level 6, having a 20 AC is not too bad, and we're going to end up pushing it even farther. We also now have access to shield, which is going to push it to 25 if we need that. So yeah, we're going to take the defense fighting style for sure. And then we also get Second Wind, which allows us to heal just a little bit every rest, which is awesome. So at level 7, we go ahead and pick up Action Surge as we take our second level in Fighter. And this is going to double the amount of attacks that we can make in one turn, as long as we do it once per rest, which is great. And then our dog can also attack, as it is right next to us. So that's pretty great. And this ends up making our damage output way higher than it would be normally. So it's going to average out to 8d6 plus 16 because of our intelligence, plus 4 for our enhanced weapon, plus 40 if we use Great Weapon Master, plus another 1d8 plus 3 with our Steel Defender. So if we hit with all of our attacks and use our Great Weapon Master, that's an average of 100 damage. So against stuff that has really low AC, where you're going to be hitting most of the time, and you just want to remove somebody, you can do on average 100 damage in one turn to them. Now keep in mind this is once per short rest, so be careful when you do this. But it's kind of insane that Nova damage being possible at level 7. That's absolutely wonderful, and definitely makes Action Surge worth taking. So level 8, I almost went back to Artificer. I came really close. But I decided to keep going with Fighter and take one more level, because then we get our subclass. And I went through 3 different subclasses before I landed on this 4th one that I ended up going with. And yeah, I went with a Battle Master because all the maneuvers are insane. Really good, but I thought that was a little too, overdone, so I decided to not do that. Next, I went with the Eldritch Knight, which is, of course, very overdone as well. Everybody does that one with the Artificer because you keep your spell progression and all that good stuff. Didn't go with that. I then went with a Rune Knight, but I decided that really didn't give me a whole lot over the course. So unfortunately, even though this is not an optimized series, I still want it to be good, and I wanted to be adding things up, and I just felt like I didn't get enough from the Rune Knight at the low levels. So I went with Echo Knight, and Echo Knight is from the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, written by Matt Mercer, first introduced in Campaign 2 of Critical Role. So this thing is awesome. You can create a spectral clone of yourself that you can swap places with, that you can attack through. You can attack from its position or yours, which is great. You can teleport between yourself or the other one. It's awesome. I'm not going to go into too much detail of what it does here. I'm going to do that when we get to the Echo Knight fighter in this series that we're doing. So we'll go into a lot of detail there. But the other thing is nice that we can control it without using an action or bonus action. It's free.
So that means we can still control our dog and our echo at the same time, which is great. They can both act on the same turn. However, we're here for Unleash Incarnation, which basically just we get an extra attack as long as we do it from our clone's position. Okay, we're going to be carrying around our people all the time. So we're going to have my dog on one side and my echo on the other, and we're just going to town on this thing. And now we have 5 attacks, which is insane. It's wonderful. I absolutely love this. We can only do this con mod times per day, but again, we're looking for Nova damage on this build. And so an extra attack is an extra attack. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. So at level 9, we make our way back to Artificer, and we are going to go ahead and pick up Tool Expertise. Now, Tool Expertise is kind of the reason why I decided not to go with Rune Knight, is because it becomes redundant with the Fire Rune. The Fire Rune being one that we basically would need to take because it gives us extra damage, but our passive feature would have been useless because we already have Tool Expertise. So it got redundant. I didn't think it would be worth taking. So yeah, that's why we didn't get to do it. We also get our 3rd infusion, which is going to be our spell refueling ring, of course, to give us those spell slots back, which is awesome. Level 10 gives us Flash of Genius, which allows us to be better at saving throws and to help other people. And then level 11 is an ability score improvement or a feat. And we're going to finally go ahead and max out our intelligence. I know that you've been waiting on that. We're going to go ahead and do that now. So at level 12, we pick up Arcane Jolt, and at level 13, we get another attunement slot, and we also get another infusion. This is going to also improve our enhanced defense and enhanced weapons. So those are now +2, and we can also pick up a Cloak of Protection now to boost our AC even more. Now I wanted to take just a bit of a look at our damage at level 13, because now we're starting to get into some serious territory, and I wanted to see just how much damage we're putting out on average on our Nova turn. So this is not a normal turn of combat. This is when we decide to blow all of our resources at once and do a bunch of damage in one go. So now we have access to 7 attacks on our Nova round. So we get 2 from extra attack. We then get to Unleash Incarnation. Then we can Action Surge, 2 more attacks plus Unleash Incarnation, which is all that we can do because that's con mod times. And then we have 1 extra attack for haste. So that is a total of 7 attacks. Yeah, this damage is kind of nuts. So we are doing 14d6 damage from the weapon, 35 for the intelligence modifier, 14 for the magic weapon, 70 from Great Weapon Master, 2d6 from Arcane Jolt, and 1d8 plus 5 for the defender. This is insane because now our average damage, if we hit with all of our attacks, is 193 damage. That's just incredible. That's great damage here at this level. Yes, it blows all of our resources, but it's really, really cool. So yeah, this is getting ridiculous. Now we do have a +12 to hit right now, which is wonderful. So Great Weapon Master is really worth using most of the time. However, once you get to stuff with AC of like 19, 20 and above, maybe think twice about using it, just because you don't want to miss all of your attacks on your Nova round and blow a bunch of resources and not get it. So just be really careful about that. But basically 18 and below, I probably would be rolling Great Weapon Master every time. That's just me. That's how I do it. But you know, it's totally up to you. Because with Great Weapon Master, you still have a +7 to hit. So I mean, you know, you're still doing all right. You're still doing okay. So yeah, just weigh the odds out and make your own decisions from there. We also get another cantrip, and we're gonna go ahead and pick up Thorn Whip from here so that we can move people around and put them near us when maybe they don't want to be. So yeah, always good. So at level 14, we go ahead and pick up Spell Storing Item, which will allow us to imbue a weapon or anything like that with a spell. So with this, we get several options that are really top contenders, in my opinion, for what to put in the Spell Storing Item. So the top one is going to be Fairy Fire. This just gives advantage on everything against that creature as long as concentration is being held. So this is something to give to somebody who maybe doesn't use their concentration all that much. Put it in an item or in their weapon or whatever you want to do, and then they can cast Fairy Fire, concentrate on that for a minute, and just let somebody wail on that creature with advantage, which is great. Next is Invisibility. This doesn't necessarily help you all that much because you're going to have your dog going around kind of giving you away, and disadvantage is already being imposed because of the Steel Defender. So this is more for use in helping your party out, but it doesn't really help you out all that much. Next is Enlarge Reduce. This is a great one because if somebody casts this on you, you get an extra D4 to every one of those attacks. So yeah, this can add up. So I mean, 7 D4 extra damage on your Nova round. Not too bad, not too bad. It's pretty nice. And then finally, Web is really nice here. If you're up in somebody's face, somebody can cast Web where you're just on the outside of it and whoever you're fighting is within it. And so that can kind of ruin their day, and it's really cool. So you've got quite a few really good options here. At level 15, we get another ability score improvement or a feat, and we need to start working on our Constitution. Yeah, our Constitution's been 15 all the way up to level 15. So yeah, let's go ahead and bump that up to 17. So 16 is actually a dead level for us, and 17 we get another attunement slot and infusion, and here we're of course going to pick up a Ring of Protection, and this is going to take our AC up to 25, which is awesome. 30 with shield, and so yeah, that's going to be absolutely nuts right there. So our final few levels, 18, we get our improved Defender, which is going to make it a little bit tougher to hit. It's going to make it a little bit tougher as far as attacking goes, all of that good stuff. And we are going to then at level 19 get our final ability score improvement or feat. We're going to bump our Constitution up one more time to 19. You know, we're not going to get a ton of mileage out of that one level of boosting it, but it is still nice to have that just in case we need it, especially for Constitution saving throws. Those can happen a lot when you get to high levels, so it's good to have those. And finally, level 20 is actually a dead level for us as far as features, but we have to take it here unless we don't want 5th level spells, and we do. So yeah, we're gonna have to take 20th level for no features, but we get our final level of spell slots. So that is the build. Let me know what you thought down below. So as always, we're gonna look at some honorable mentions here, and the first honorable mention, the build that I tried so hard to get to work, but I couldn't get it to work, was a Cleric build. I tried to get the Cleric build to work with the heavily armored stipulation, but it was just spreading the stats too thin. I couldn't get everything to work correctly, at least in a timely manner, and so I would have ended up having to multi-class way later into the build than what I would have wanted to, and by that point it wouldn't have really made a huge impact overall, especially for people who are playing this most of the time. And so I wanted it to have that front end type of feel to it. So yeah, Cleric ended up not working. The second build was actually a straight build all the way up to level 20, and actually showed off using a firearm, which is great. I like firearms a lot in my games. Sometimes I allow them, sometimes I don't. It just depends on the setting. But if your Dungeon Master allowed firearms, this would have been a really cool build for you. Carry on a musket or some other kind of long firearm like that. And then we would have definitely prioritized taking the winged boots. Notice we didn't take the winged boots in this one. We didn't fly. The reason we didn't do that is because we're wanting to stay on the ground with our dog so that it gives disadvantage, and we're a frontline get in people's face build. So this one would have been using a gun, so flying around would have made a lot more sense. And so that could have been really cool. Finally, the final build that I came up with, which was actually the first build that I came up with, and honestly I should have just gone with it, but I felt like it was too optimized for the series and didn't give me anywhere to go for that optimized series. But it was I'll go ahead and give you a hint into it. It was a Warforged that also used the heavily armored feat, but it was one-handed weapon and a shield, and just cranked AC to the absolute max. Worked on just defense. It was also a straight build, and basically we got that up to, I think I got the AC up to like 27 or 28, not counting shield, which is ridiculous. Yeah, it was absolutely insane. So hardly anything's going to be hitting you right there when you have shield, plus haste, plus all the things. Like, yeah, it was a nutty build, but it was a lot of fun. So let me know down below what kind of builds you would like to see in the future, any type of builds. So, you know, Gish, Nova, like what this one was, just sustain damage, anything like that. That's the kind of things I like to hear, is knowing what you guys want to see in my future builds. Next week, we of course are going to be talking about the Barbarian and looking at all of the things that it gets, and it is a fun time just being the mindless, blood spreading. I mean, this thing's insane. The Barbarian is awesome, has a lot of really cool things about it. But yeah, it just kind of throws intelligence to the wind and just wants to kill everything, and that's great. If that's your flavor, then this will be all for you. So until then, I hope you stay safe. I hope you have a great week. I hope that you're having a good time, staying healthy, especially with all of the craziness going on right now. Staying healthy is great. And so yeah, until next time, I'll see you later. Bye bye.